Good morning, Flosstube. My name is Laura, aka the Gin Stitcher, here on YouTube and on Instagram. Although I'm not going to lie, my Instagram is very quiet because I've locked myself out of my account because my phone died and the two-factor authentication is on the phone that died. So I haven't figured out how to get past that yet to get back into my account and put pictures up. Any suggestions? Welcome. I have been absent. It is the 4th of September 2024 today, so I think it's probably getting on for 6 months since I was last here. This is the third attempt at this video this morning because I'm apparently out of practice and can't get my words out. I haven't been stitching a whole lot for various reasons, not least of which I've been in Canada for just over a month and didn't take a lot of stitching with me because my suitcase was full, as was the second suitcase. They had heavy bag tags on, if that helps. And I was like, oh, don't charge me extra. Oh. As I went way over the weight limit of 30 kilos per bag. Taking baby stuff mostly. And also I was looking after the toddler, as well as helping my sister with the new baby. So there wasn't a lot of spare time to stitch. And in all seriousness, I'm not as young as I used to be, and running around after a 2-year-old that quite literally never stops from 6 in the morning till 7 at night. I was ready for bed by 7:30. And then we were up at night with the baby as well. So busy, and not a lot of time for stitching. I took my knitting so that I could do that on the plane. I did quite a bit on the way out. I think I'll tell you what happened because I didn't do any on the way back. Since I got back, I went straight back to work, jet lag and all, and then that was crazy summer season because everyone's on holiday. There's still the same amount of work to do, etc. But now we are getting into autumn. The kids have all gone back to school yesterday, so I suddenly have a bit more time, and I've picked up my stitching. And shock of shocks, I've finished something. My husband fell off the sofa in shock. So I have been working on Moonstruck by Mill Hill Buttons and Beads. I started this in September 2022 when we went to the Isle of Wight on holiday. It was completely inspired by Penny's daughter Shares here on Flosstube. She stitched it in about a week. It's taken me 2 years. Just shows you that I A, get distracted, and B, don't stitch very fast. It's only very small. It comes with black perforated paper. It's the equivalent of 14 count Ada. I changed it out for 32 count opal even weave, so it's a little bit smaller than the called for size, and that is my finish. So it's full coverage, even all the white is all stitched, and it is really heavily beaded. I don't know if that's all this tree is beaded, all of this house is beaded down here. A lot of the tree around here is beaded. There's beads in the cat, beads in all the leaves are beads, and then there's a little crow up here. There's a button. So probably about 5.5 inches across. I just need to get that framed now and decide what I'm going to do with it, because technically it's a sort of Halloweeny stitch, but I like it. I don't want to just have it up in October. So we'll see how it goes and see what I want to do with it. But yes, one finish for me for 2024. Don't get excited, there isn't going to be any more. As you can see, there's an awful lot of, there's about 4 different shades of pink in there in the background. And it was quite a lot of stitching. So that is my Mill Hill finish. Purchased from Serena at Hawkins Hobbies here in the UK. Comes as a kit. So that was my finish. I was very proud of that. Although, because you all know me, I had 6 stitches left to do, 3 stitches and 3 beads. I put it away for 2 weeks because I just was like, I just can't do it. Just have a mental block about finishing stuff. But it's done. So now I have to decide what I'm going to do with it frame wise. Because it's so heavily beaded, I don't want to turn it into a flat fold or something that's not going to be covered. Okay, what else have I been doing? I've been doing a lot of spinning. I learned how to spin last summer. I bought an electric eel wheel, EEW wheel. It's like this big. But I learned how to spin on it. And then for my birthday last year, I bought myself an Ashford Traveller spinning wheel, second hand, probably at least third hand, probably even fourth hand, from a lady on the East Coast. She's called Matilda, and I have been spinning. This is just under 200 grams of a colourway called Rainforest by Adelaide Walker, which is a fleece and spinning shop about 20 minutes from my house. They go to a lot of shows. If anyone goes to shows in the UK, they're generally at the shows. But that is where I'm at. It's quite a chunky spin. I've spun it as a 2-ply, and I'm going to use it for weaving to make a scarf, combined with some black merino that I'm now spinning, which is downstairs on my spinning wheel. Bought that from a D-stash. About 300 grams of merino for about £12, I think. So I didn't think that was too bad. I carded it. Came ready to spin, but it was quite squished. It's clearly been in a bag and had all the air knocked out of it, so I've recarded it, and it's really puffed up quite nicely. So that you will see next time, hopefully. And then once I've got a couple of 100 grams of that, we'll be ready to weave. And hopefully I'll be able to show you the skeins and then show you on the loom, and we'll start, and we'll come up with, I haven't decided on the pattern yet, but I know it's going to be black with green. And I'm really hoping, because this is quite a shiny green, it was Corriedale, merino and sari silk. So you can see there's flashes of colour all the way through it. And I'm hoping that really comes out nicely. So that took me, each one of those took me about a day to spin. And then they have to sit for a couple of days, and then you ply them back, which is when you're plying it against itself, is a 2-person job. Otherwise it just gets tangled. And then again it sits for a couple of days, and then you can skein it up. It needs washing, that's why it looks a bit crinkly. Unfortunately, we've had one of those summers in the UK that just hasn't stopped raining. Not stopped raining for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I don't want to hang that up. I don't want to wash it and hang it on the line outside to dry, and then it's out there for days and days and days, because it never actually dry enough to dry things. Because it's yarn, it's wool, it takes a while to dry. I'm going to put this up here. The cat has come to say hello. So I am down a cat, so I now just have one. This is Leo. You can probably hear him purring. He's going to sit in my knee now, and that will be it for the next sort of however many hours. Okay, still on the topic of wool, I have my shawl. I finished my purple and green shawl, the one that was heavily beaded. I showed you that last time. And then I went to Wonderwool in Wales in April. For anyone interested, it's at the Royal Welsh Showground in mid Wales at the end of April every year. I think the tickets are £10 or £11 for a day, and it's huge. It's 3 big rooms, 3 big barns full of stalls of all sorts of things and workshops and stuff. And it's really good. It's a really good show. So I was there, and I purchased while I was there a pattern from Debonair Yarns called the Frisky Shimmer Shawl. It looks like that. So she's done it in a dark blue and a kind of green teal type colour. And it has a huge section of stockinette stitching up here, a huge section of stockinette stitching down here, and then a lace panel in the middle. So I started on this in early May. I bought the yarn, I bought the colourways, Ocean Flash, which is this one, which is so mine is going to be very different, because I bought a sort of a bluey green, and then I bought another one called Silver. So they're not particularly strong colours, but I'm going to a wedding next year and I want to wear it for the wedding, and I didn't want it to be completely overpowering, so I could choose my dress afterwards. So we've got a silver, this is the main colour, and we've got this tealy greeny colour, which is the contrast colour. Okay, so I started this early May this year, and you start up here with a 7 row 3 stitch cast on thing that you then pick up stitches and make yourself a little square. And I was toddling my way down here, and I carried on, and I didn't put these stripes in because these are not in the pattern, and I carried on and I carried on, and I was down here going to Canada, sat on the plane next to a very nice German guy who kept falling asleep on my shoulder, giving me very strange looks while I was knitting on the flight. And I got all the way down to where you would start this colour down here, and I started that while I was at my sister's, and I got probably through this. I wanted to get to the end of this section before I came back to England, so then I could concentrate on figuring out the lace. Well, I love my niece. She's beautiful. She's very clever. She never stops. She got hold of my knitting and ripped it off the needles. Partly my fault for not putting it away properly. I couldn't really tell her off because she'd not got it out of a cupboard or something like that and grabbed hold of it. But anyway, she got hold of it and she ripped it off the needles. And by this point I had like something like 200 stitches on the needles. And I had a go at putting it back on the needle, taking it back a couple of rows so I knew that there wasn't any drop stitches, and then putting it back on the needles. I didn't have any smaller needles with me because I'd literally taken a pair of 4mm needles and a short cable and a long cable and some end stops. Oh, thank you. You've better now. And I take, because the needles come off, so I'd taken some end stops for going through security. So if they wanted to inspect the needles, they weren't going to rip the knitting off the needles. I gave up. I pulled it all back, wound up the balls back to the start and started again. But that gave me an opportunity to add in these extra stripes at the top, because this should all have been the grey, and it should all have been flat stockinette stitching, and it was boring. It was boring to knit. It was boring to look at. This yarn does have a sparkle in it, so that's better than it being completely plain. But I was just a bit like, that's a lot more plain grey stitching than I was expecting. So I added in reverse. It is all reverse stockinette, so again it's sticking up a bit more, but when I block it it'll be fine. There's a 1, a 1, a 2, a 1 and a 1, so this is there and back when I say 1. And then down here, we're back into official pattern again here. So we had 2 rows, 4 rows, 2 rows, there's 1 there, and then you go into the lace pattern. And I've done 4 rows of the lace. I don't know if you can see that very well, which I've had to learn because I couldn't knit 12 months ago. This is a new hobby for me. So I've had to learn how to do lace. I've done 4. I got 14 pattern rows to do, and then the reverse purl rows on the way back. So it's not a huge section of lace, and then we go back into the reverse stockinette pattern, and then in theory it's just plain grey all the way to the end then, but I do not want tiny bits of yarn left. So I am going to just knit until I run out of yarn, and if it means the whole thing is 2 rows bigger, then so be it. So that is my frisky shimmer shawl for, it's upside down, for my friend's wedding next summer, and it just gets bigger. You're knitting along the long side, this is the top, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and more stitches on the needles every time. We'll probably end up somewhere around the 500 stitch mark if the previous one is anything to go by. So that is knitting project number 1. Knitting project number 2 is a new start this week. So I've been watching Sticks, Strings and Other Things, a lady based in the Pacific Northwest, and she has been knitting the My Reading Shawl from Ravelry. Now it calls for 24 mini skeins of stock yarn and 4 full skeins of stock yarn in a contrasting colour. Now it suggests a very pale colour for the contrasting colour, and because it's sort of suggesting you use an advent, with a 20 gram mini advent, and then you you use those minis to make a fade or a rainbow stripe. So therefore you're going to pick out a contrasting, probably pale colour. Well, I don't have any minis yet. I'm going to a show in Wales in a week or so, in Mould on the 15th, and I'm going to pick up some minis there and build a fade. But in the meantime, I went to Black Sheep Wools in Warrington, and they were having a sale, which is never a good thing. And I bought 4 skeins of this, which is Rowan in the colourway Moordale. 400 gram skeins. It is double knit, so I have the right yardage, because you need 4 skeins of sock yarn, but you hold 2 together, so you need about 800 meters, and I've got about 900 meters of this. It is a beautiful wine purple kind of colour. So the question is, I have to find 24 minis that don't clash and create a nice fade. And the truth is, I'm just going to wander around the show picking up minis and then start pairing them up together and working out what works and what doesn't work and what creates a nice fade. Probably will be paler colours, but it's just my start. So again, that is the top, and you're adding more stitches along the V all the time. I don't know how many stitches we've got at the minute, but that's the center point. And again, it'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. The pattern officially says do 5 rows of this and 6 rows of that and 4 rows of this and 3 rows of that, and I'm like, I get it. I get that you have to create a pattern, but I'm going to be left with like this much yarn off a mini. I'm just going to knit till the end of the yarn. So it might, again, it's going to end up bigger than the official pattern. And I know from seeing Lee's video that it's already enormous. So mine is going to be even bigger, simply because I'm not willing to have all these tiny scraps of yarn hanging around the house. So that is where we're at. You use a knit front and back to do the increases on this one, so you don't end up with any holes. It's really solid. It's literally just knit stitches there and back. This yarn, for reference, is a wool and alpaca. So it's not as smooth as a merino, but it's really, really warm and floofy. So double winner as far as I'm concerned, from using a double knit rather than a sock yarn. So that is my nearly all my knitting. The other thing that I've been doing, because it doesn't really require any thought, when my brain's not really engaged, is I've been knitting baby hats for a local maternity unit, and I've finished one. I've got another one that just needs sewing up, and I've got a third one on the needles, and it's literally a 2x2 rib, 56 stitches across, 2x2 rib for about 1.5 inches or so, and then about another 5.5 inches of stockinette stitch, and then you reduce it down over a couple of rows to make the crown at the top. Nice, mindless, in a meeting knitting. Yes, please don't attack my knitting cat. We'll all fall out. So that is all my knitting. That's what, three projects on the go. I'm going to Yarndale in September, which is our local big yarn festival here in Yorkshire. That's always an expensive day out, but I will be working the show, so hopefully that means I won't spend too much money, because I'll be on one of the stands and working. Okay, right, stitching. Oh, no, we'll do that one in a minute. Stitching, right, that's on that. Okay, first one then, chatelaine. Not really in the mood to stitch, so what do I pull out of chatelaine? You gotta make your motivation back somewhere. So this is Indian Summer Reflections. Last time you saw this, I had the glass house frame, and I had this bit done over here. And this is, there's about 3 different colours of the yarn in there, silk in there, and it's beaded as well. So I have put in this section over here. I've put in this greenery, which needs some gold back stitching over it. And then I've done this pattern bit down here. And again, I'm beading as I go, minus the crystals. Shoved it on a Q-snap, doesn't quite fit on a 17-inch Q-snap. So I'm going to stick an extender bar in, see if I can make it 20 inches across. And hopefully that will make it wide enough then to do all the way across. And this is the top. I'm not starting, weirdly, I've not started in the centre on this one. I know it's traditional to start in the centre of chatelaine, but I've started at the top with this one. So there are four glass houses all the way around, but all of this is different on all four sides. And then in the centre it's the same for four sides. So that is my chatelaine. It's on an unknown, very pale blue from Kate Sparkley's. And this is nearly all silk. There's 2 DMCs in the kit. One is a sort of blue and one is a sort of green. When I get to the point where they're actually used, and I look at what they're used for and decide whether I'm going to swap them out for some MPIs, because it just seems a bit daft using two cotton strains when everything else on here is silk. I don't know whether it's going to look a bit weird. There is some Anchor Marlet that goes along here. I haven't been brave enough to get it out yet because it's like a viscose. It's really slippery, but it's really shiny. I'm sure the effect will be lovely, but it's a bit intimidating when it's all tangled up on the skein. I haven't even taken the little wrappers off the skein and it's already tangled up. So that is my chatelaine. Quite a bit of progress on that one since you last saw it, because it didn't come out for a year. It was in the naughty corner well and truly, and I wasn't really feeling it for a while because I'd had to rip a load out and I was quite frankly cross with it. Okay, next one then is called Aurora. It's a pattern I got off Etsy. Don't ask me who did it, I can't remember. Works on Pattern Keeper though, which always makes me happy. It will come out as a circle. I think I'd started this last time you saw it, because I think I started it with my husband's car MOT, and I'd probably just done this little bit in the centre here. So we're now about 40% done. This section here is all 939, so it's just a fill-in job. I tend to, if I was going to any more retreats this year, I would probably take it with me and just sit filling in 939 all day, all weekend. It's all 939 down here as well to make up the rest of the circle, and then in here, and then the top here is more pattern. So we are getting there on that one, and actually it's coming along quite quickly now. It's a fabric of the month from Kate Sparkley's. It's a 32 count opal even weave. It's in the centre of a fat quarter, which I get probably feels a little bit wasteful. But the idea is to turn it into the birth sampler for my new nephew. Well, considering he was born in June, we are somewhat behind schedule. But Willow has hers. It's up on the wall, so it just needs to join. And the idea was that the two will be different, but similar enough that they can sit next to each other on the wall. And she's told me she's not having any more, so hopefully that's me done stitching birth samplers. Okay, I haven't decided yet. On Willow's I did all the flags because she's a British citizen and a Canadian citizen, so I did quite a lot. I did some flags to show that she's multiple nationalities. Haven't decided if I'm doing that on this one yet because each flag was 2,500 stitches of 1/1. I probably will, but I have to work my way up mentally to doing that again because that was fairly intensive. Okay, next one is called Thistle Shore by Karen Carter from Heritage Crafts. It looks like that. It comes with the fabric, which is usually sort of a 27 count or a 14 count Aida. I've swapped it out for 32 count easy count because I'm lazy and I have a really big start. I've literally done that much. It's still got the center marking needle in because otherwise I'll completely lose the plot. So that is, you know, and then that is it. That is the piece of fabric. It's not a big design, this, you know, that's with a decent margin for framing. So that's upside down, that way up. So it doesn't, you know, it's not a big picture, but this back stitched up to the eyebrows. So not a lot to show, so there's no point showing it for ages. It's a Bothy, no, it's a Heritage Crafts kit. So the way it comes is you get a whole thing of the pattern, and then you get a second copy of the pattern with the pattern kind of greyed out in the background and all the back stitching clear on top. So you can see the back stitching clearly, but more importantly where it's back stitch heavy, because it really is, you can see what the stitches should be underneath. So that is, you can see all of these flowers, all of these thistles here are all back stitched. The castle is all back stitched. The mountains are back stitched. Ugh, I hate back stitch. But my husband gave me this as a gift for Christmas, so I sort of obliged to stitch it at some point. And then the last stitching is a Bothy Threads kit. Again, Bothy Threads comes with the fabric and all the threads and everything that you need, and it is this one, which is absolutely no idea because the name's not on the thing. So it's that one, Christmas shoe. It comes with white fabric, again, comes with white Aida. So I swapped out. This is still on the Q-snap, so just bear with me. Swapped out for 28 count from Jodrell Designs, which is discontinued now. She's no longer dyeing, and that is where I'm at. That is the top of the boot, and we're now working our way down the front of the shoe. The toe will go over here somewhere. So I haven't got a huge number of colours in so far. A couple of shades of red, one shade of yellow, one shade of green. Big blocks of colour, which is nice. There's gaps here in this red section. It calls for a white white stitch. Seriously considering a white bead. I've got some in the kit. Well, I've added some to the kit. That's probably a better way of calling it. Delicate white pearl AB. Oh dear, that's terrible. So they're white, but so they're the same colour, but they're a little bit sparkly. So they've got that AB effect. And then I fished out some other beads, which are teal iris metallic. So they're a green colour. And I've shoved them in. Might not use them yet. So that's a maybe. But I've shoved them in because I had them out, so I was like, well, shove them in there, and then I had them out. The only other thing is these Bothy Threads kits come with the most awful metallic thread. Excuse me. It's awful. It's easily on a par with DMC metallic. So I will probably swap that out for Rainbow Gallery. Excuse me. For Treasure Braid. Because it's just so much easier to work with. So that is where we're at with that one. As I say, pretty easy stitch. There is a lot of backstitch. An awful lot of backstitch when I get to it. It's got an ice skate style base to it, and all of that is backstitched. So it's just going to be a question of just sort of getting on with it as we go along, otherwise it'll never get done. And so I'll finish the stitching and go, nope, it can go away. And it'll just stay away. It'll just never get done. So I've got to backstitch as I go along. Okay, that is all of my crafting. I have done a little bit of shopping. To Canada. I was shopping Canada. I came home with another hobby. Sorry. So I saw this. There's a shop in where my sister lives called the Sugar Pine Company. And it is a quilt shop. And they had this kit. And I was just like, yep, that's going home with me. It was only 37 Canadian dollars plus tax. And I bought backing fabric as well, so I paid about another $20 for backing fabric. So $50 all told for what is essentially a table runner sized design. It's 16 inches by 44 inches when it's done, borders and all. So I was actually thinking, I have this giant Millennium frame over here that's about 44 inches. I was thinking this could be the case. It's appliqued rather than traditional quilting. So I'm probably going to hand quilt it because these trees are very fine. And I'm not sure I can put that through my sewing machine successfully. So my thinking is to piece it all together. You use an iron-on interfacing to join it all together anyway. Stick it in a Q-snap and hand embroider it. Probably take me just as long to do it like that as it would to do on the machine. So that is Northern Lights with the Three Sisters Mountains. So these mountains here, she says, yeah, these mountains here are the Three Sisters Mountains, which are the Bow Valley. So everyone goes to the Bow Valley to see. Okay, the second thing I came home with, this was a little bit more expensive, was a pattern from Atkinson Designs called Slideshow. And it comes out 66 inches by 78 inches. And it looks like that. And it's all batiks. So it's all like tie-dye type style fabrics. Quite an easy design, this one. This one is an easy machine quilt. And then I bought the backing fabric as well. Ready to go. So this is one that when it's done, will go away to be long arm quilted. There is a company near here that do have a long arm quilter that there is available for use. So that's quite good. Okay, so that was my primary shopping. I did buy in the sale, the ECC sale. I don't know what I've done with them. I bought a load of bead packs. I think I've put them away. Lastly but not leastly, this came this morning. This is my yarn of the month from Moffy and the Squid, which is based in Scotland. So let's open it while we're on camera. So it comes in this box. There is only one skein of yarn in here. If I have any questions at all about this subscription, it is why are you sending it in a giant box? The postage was £3.39, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if she'd stuck it in a mailer envelope, it would have been half that. And it would have fit through the letterbox. So it wouldn't have to come, I wouldn't have to go down to the sorting office to collect it. It wouldn't classify as a parcel, it would classify as a fat letter. Okay, so you open up the box and it comes wrapped in some tissue paper. It's like Christmas. Oh wow. Oh, this is nice. And you get in a bag. The theme this year is frogs. And if you still want to join, you can. She's still got availability from earlier months that she's had dyed, and she's got a surplus stock, so that's always good. And you can join at any time, and then it renews in January. So even if you signed up now for the rest of the year, you'd still have to log in December and sign up for 2025. So it's quite good in that respect. It's not a never-ending have to faff about and cancel. So you get your yarn. You also get a little stitch marker, which is a glass frog this time with stripes on the back. And you get a little card telling you about the frog that she's been inspired by, which I'm not even going to try and say that. South American blue poison dart frog is its common name. And the colour, oh my god. I need about 4 more of these. I wonder if I can justify that. £28, I think it's £29 a month. I think it's got up a pound. £29 a month, including shipping. But if I buy just that as an extra, I think it's £23 a month. £23 for an extra. That is beautiful. I am in love. It's sock weight yarn, so it's about 400 meters. And it over the course of the year, it makes up a rainbow. So we're heading into the blues and the purples now as we head towards the end of the year. We've had yellows, reds, oranges, a couple of greens. So we're now coming to the end. So I absolutely love that. She can make that again for me all day long. Okay, that is everything. I promise, I know I said this last time, I promise I won't be missing in action for quite so long next time. Chances of it being every month, low, but I'll do my best. Keep stitching. Stay happy. Enjoy every moment. See you soon.